Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be talking about this 5-drawer dresser that I purchased. Right now you can see kind of the damage that was on the table and the color. The base was a little bit red, more red, and the drawers were a little bit more brown. So I ended up staining it a walnut color. So first of all, this is normal speed of how I'm taking off the varnish and some of the stain. This was very thick lacquer on the outside that made it almost seem black. And it was interesting because after I removed it all, I could see a lot of the flaws in the wood, which I'm sure lots of manufacturers do it that way, so you can't see the errors in the wood when they are staining it so heavily. You can see that I sanded all of the drawers to make it all nice and pretty. And later on, you're going to see that there is one drawer that has 2 partitions in it, and it was filled with glitter and hearts, and it looked like dried lipstick. So I think a little girl had this drawer before me. So who did have this drawer before me? Well, I found this on Facebook Marketplace, and I messaged the guy, and I went out and saw him. Here, this is a Russian coin, and he happened to be from Russia. So I asked him what the story was about this dresser, and he said that 3 years ago, when the people helped him get out of Russia, he was given this dresser. And now 3 years have passed, and he works, I believe, as an HVAC person, and he loves his job. His wife is going to have her 3rd baby, so he was told by his wife that she would prefer all white furniture. So he sold this for $50, and there were some problems that I didn't see because he had disassembled the dresser before I got there. The very top drawer was loose, so when I took the back off of it, it was no problem. I just fixed it. Also, it was filled with glitter on this drawer right here, which is no problem. I just cleaned it and used my scraper to get it off. And then, as I mentioned, there was a very thick lacquer that was kind of almost black, which is no problem. I took it off. So after I finished this whole thing, it looks a lot lighter and more like wood. I don't know for sure, but I think probably a church group helped him and his wife come here. He had a little boy that was with him who looked about 4 years old, and then he had another child and one on the way. And he said, "Oh, yes, I am from Russia. I'm very sorry." And I said, "What does that have to do with anything, right? People have no power really over what their leaders do." So he said that he was very happy that he got to escape. And that's what I wanted to bring up a little bit about today is think about the country that you're from. Are people trying to escape from it, or are people trying to get in there? If people are trying to get to your country, think about all of the wonderful things that your country does for you. The U.S. government doesn't really have good health insurance for people who don't work a normal company job, but you can pay for yourself, and it is pretty good if you can get coverage. If you are poor here and you have no assets, then the hospitals will take care of you, and they just basically eat the cost because pretty much everybody has to be seen, at least in Washington states. I don't know about the rest of the country. I've mostly lived in Washington my whole life. So right here, I just took off some of the makeup from the drawer, and now I'm using the scraper to get all of the weird gooky parts off of the drawer. I always wonder what people put in drawers. I think drawers are mostly for clothing, so how do they get weird stuff in it? I don't know. But I do clean it all up, and it looks really great afterwards. So another thing I talked about in a prior YouTube video was I used to be a driver guide in Alaska. In my hometown, there's a university here where I went to school, and part of Gray Line of Alaska's deal is that they hire college students and they train them for 120 hours, and then they ship you up to Alaska, either to Juneau, Ketchikan, Anchorage, or Fairbanks, and then you can drive either through the whole state or just in the cities. I also got to drive in Sitka because they didn't have enough drivers there. And Sitka, at least when I was there, were known for their amazing strawberry pies at the Sitka airport. Oh yeah, it was amazing. I'm pretty sure it was Sitka, if not Ketchikan. Anyways, one of those two cities, amazing bakery at the airports. So when I was a driver guide there, I got to meet people from all over the world, and I got to meet a bunch of people who were a little bit elderly. So here you can see I'm using one of the recyclable plastic containers to scrape off some of the really gooey lacquer that used to be on this piece of wood. It was really gooey. So meeting all of the people from around the world, it was really great to see how people appreciated nature, how some people did not appreciate the rain up in Alaska, and it really made me think to myself that I wanted to have the opportunity to travel. One of the nice perks about driving for Gray Line, at least back in the day, was that for every 2 years you were a driver guide, you got a free cruise in the Caribbean through Holland America. So I did that twice and it was amazing. So now here I am using, I believe it's 150 grit sandpaper to sand the side of the dresser once I removed all of the gunk off of it, all of the very thick lacquer. You can see on the corner of the dresser, there's a lot of dings and holes in this. And I did patch it up with, wood glue. And I kind of like the 2-in-1 patching compound better than the wood glue, because the wood glue, even if I sanded it down a little bit, it kind of looked a little bit like sand. Whereas the 2-in-1, I think it's from Quick or something like that. It just makes it look, it's so much more smooth. All right, so after I cleaned the drawers and took all the lacquer or whatever is on the outside of it, I then sanded the drawers as well, and I washed them all down. And then I put my handy dandy gloves on, and I love this gel. You can buy me a coffee if you want to. Do love the coffee. So in my past, I did a lot of work in my house and also my parents' house, and or my apartment in my parents' house. And I love gel stain. I have made white, those hollow doors that you can buy for really inexpensive apartments, look like real wood, at least in my opinion. So I will give a tour of what I did in my house eventually, but you can see here now I'm putting on the walnut color. No, I think it's mahogany actually. Mahogany color on the wood here. And it is a veneered wood, but under the veneer there is solid wood. And this thing was pretty heavy without the drawers. It was really sturdy. If only I could really work this fast, it'd be amazing. This is about ×8. And you can see here I'm scraping off the drawers from the original stain and the coating they had for that as a protection. Now in the pictures, this looks kind of like it matches the body, but in reality, these drawers were browner looking and the body was more of a red base. So they didn't really match all that well. I do like the drawers. They were a little bit, not beveled, but they weren't straight across. And so it was really nicely done. If I needed to keep another dresser, I would have kept this one. Now, I shouldn't probably say this because my stepdaughter who got this does not like spiders. But oh my goodness, I vacuumed the whole thing out, and then about 2 days later, when I was going to stain the side of it, I flipped it over, and a mama spider was carrying her sack of eggs, trying to escape. I was like, oh my goodness. So I got a paper towel, and I kind of scooted them outside. I did read Charlotte's Web as a child, and I do try to save spiders. But I think spiders belong outside, not inside. Now, this is the back of the dresser that I did in the beginning, but it took too much time to put this at the beginning of the video. Now, what had happened is all the screws were stripped, so I couldn't take the screws out. So I had to use that tool to kind of pry them out, and then they had finishing nails all the way around, so I did use my own finishing nails to put that back on. And I flipped it around because the back was really beat up, and of course the inside looked really pretty. And when you open up the drawers, you won't see the beat up back because it was really a dark color, and who really ever pulls out their drawers to look at the back. So I cleaned the back up, put it back on the reverse. It looked really great. So now I am putting polyurethane over the drawers. I put polyurethane on the whole dresser. On the outside, I did not polyurethane the inside. However, I did put some stain on the inside because after I sanded it, it looked pretty dry and not very happy. And I just love the gel stain. It makes it look so rich. So once I put the polyurethane on, I then used 400 grit sandpaper, which cost 75 cents for one little piece at the store where I go. And I carefully sanded any of the little hard, or not hard spots, but little flakes or things like that on there. And most of it looked good, but some of it I was like, oh, wow. This takes so much more time than I thought it was gonna take. So here's me polyurethaning the side. And if you remember, there was a big white stain on the side of the cabinet in the beginning, and now it's all pretty nice. And there is a part of the wood that goes the opposite direction, so that's why you can see I'm kind of starting a little bit farther down because it doesn't go all the way up. I polyurethaned these 3 times, sanding after the last one. And then after everything was dry, I waited overnight, so at least 8 hours, if not 12 hours. I then put Minwax stain on the front of the drawers and on the top of the dresser. And I like the hardiness of Minwax. It's just, I find it a little bit hard to make it look flawless. And I know that sometimes people spray the polyurethane coat on top, but with the Minwax polish, yeah, whenever I kind of used a cloth on it, it left little marks. So part of me was going crazy over it, and part of it was like, okay, this is nicer than what my stepdaughter and her husband had, so yeah, it's better and not perfect. But I always say nobody's perfect, just try your best. Now this polyurethane, it goes with the same brand as the gel stain. And sorry to say, most of my stuff is a little bit old, so I have to put it on my list to get a strainer. They kind of look like a coffee strainer, like you put with your grounds for your machine, but it's for paint because a lot of my stuff has little globules in it. So anyway, I was a bus driver in Juneau, Alaska for 4 summers, and I met lots of wonderful people. My favorite people were the tour groups from Hawaii. Hey, aloha! They always had their people give us $1 each, so we made about $40 after each group, and they were just so hospitable. They would give us macadamia nuts, and oh my goodness, the tour groups from Hawaii were number one. Living in Juneau in the summer was beautiful, and if you've never been to Alaska, I highly recommend it. I would stay longer than shorter. When you're on a 7-day cruise, then you really don't see all the changes of the weather. So I was in Juneau for at least 2 or 3 summers. So I saw, not summers, months. So I could see the rain and the beautiful sunny days, and it's just breathtaking. A lot of people told me it looks like the fjords of Norway, where I was living in Juneau. I have yet to be a visitor of Norway, so I couldn't tell you for sure, but it was pretty spectacular. Now, this is the normal speed of how I work. I just thought I shouldn't always put it on extremely fast speed. It gives an illusion of not being real. And also, you can see I'm going back and forth, which probably isn't the best. Okay, so here it is, all polyurethane. I do not think I put the Minwax on yet. So here it is. Here's the polyurethane that I'm using. So here's what it looked like beforehand, and the top drawer was loose. I cleaned it all up, and there was a big gap on the top where there was no varnish left at all. And here it is afterwards. Looks pretty nice, I think. I delivered it today. And thank you for watching Projects with Paula. I hope you subscribe and have a great day. Bye-bye.